afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Wednesday, June 8th, 2026 edition of Douglas Now Live. I'm Robert Preston Jr., live in the Douglas Now studios here on West Walker Street. Before I go any further, I want to wish my son Zine a happy birthday today, 20 years old. 20 years ago today. If my memory serves me correctly, June the 8th of 2006 was a Friday. Actually, was a Saturday. We had eaten supper at my mother's house, mother and father's house, that Friday night. Zine's due date actually was the 8th. So we had eaten on the 7th, and Mom fixed a wonderful dinner. And we had the whole family over, and everybody was kind of watching Heather while we were eating because we knew that we were just a few hours away from the due date. And after we ate supper, a couple hours later, Heather started feeling kind of funny. And I guess it was about 11 o'clock, 11:30 or so. We went to the hospital, and Zine was born about 3 o'clock in the morning. So he didn't make it on his due date by much. But it's been an incredible 20 years, a lot of fun. I have a lot of fun with him at his expense. He has a lot of fun at mine too. So I give Zine a little bit of grief sometimes out here on social media, and people ask me, why do you do that? I said, you ought to see what he does to me at home. It certainly goes both ways. But Zine, 20 years old today. We're very proud of him. He has turned into a bright and promising young man, and again, he's a lot of fun to be around. So Zine, we love you very much. Hope you have a happy birthday. I know your mother will do everything she can to make sure that you have having a wonderful day. A couple of things I want to talk about here this afternoon. A little bit more baseball, particularly some Blake Bryant news. Of course, the draft is coming up. The MLB draft is coming up on Saturday. Blake is projected, depending on who you look at and what you look at, and there are a gazillion of these different services. You got, Perfect Game and ESPN and all this other stuff. I mean, they're a dime a dozen. Some of them good, some of them credible, some of them not so much. But most of them have Blake at around the number 60 pick. Well, there's 30 MLB teams. So you're looking at pick 60, you're kind of looking at the tail end of the second round. But as we get closer to the draft, Blake's stock is rising, and he's coming down a little bit. There are a couple of scouts who think he'll go somewhere around 40, 41, 42. And then I actually seen some that have him as a late first round pick. What we have here on the screen, first team All-Americans from Baseball America. This is not Blake's picture, of course, but you can see Blake's name right here. All right, there are 13 players who make the Baseball America first team All-American team. 13 high school players in the United States. Blake was one of those. Now, Blake, as best we can tell from trying to keep score here, and there have been so many postseason accolades and so much going on, at last count, this was the fourth All-American, high school All-American team that Blake has made. He has also been named an All-American by the American Baseball Coaches Association and Rawlings. Also Perfect Game and Max Preps. And now here at Baseball America. So that's 4 All-Americans, All-American nods. This is what Baseball America had to say about Blake. And I love reading these baseball descriptions. They're so entertaining, and it's kind of fun to sit back and figure out exactly what they mean here. All right. But this is what Baseball America had to say about Blake. Bryant is a lean right-hander who has plenty of space to add more strength and mass to his frame, with a high probability starter profile thanks to his advanced pitchability and deep 4-pitch mix. What does that mean? It means he's tall and lanky, has room to gain weight, which he does, and he throws, he has good command of more than one pitch, and he throws really hard. That's what that means. But you got to figure out a way to say that with flowery language. But I'm going to tell you what happened. And I talked to CCA coach Jeremy Corum about this. In the first state championship game, remember it was a best 2 out of 3. And Blake pitched game 1. So win or lose, the state championship is not decided in that one game. All right. CCA, of course, went on and won game 2 for a second consecutive state title. But what Blake did, he struggled a little bit that day. And I say struggle, it's all relative. If you look at the stat line, you would say he didn't struggle at all. But if you know how Blake usually pitches, he had a little more trouble, threw more pitches than normal, had to work a little harder to get outs than he normally does. He ended up throwing 109 pitches. All right. He did his best work when he was sitting between 92 and 95, but he got up to 96 several times, and pitch 106, 107, and 108 were 96 miles per hour. Okay. So you've pitched a complete game. You've gone over 100 pitches, and you've got 3 in a row at 96. Now, they played the state championship game at Georgia Southern, and the Georgia Southern field had a radar gun. And, of course, they put the speed up of each pitch after each pitch. So you could look up there and see. His 109th pitch showed on the scoreboard at 96 miles per hour, but there were scouts there in the stands running their own radar guns who had him at 97. And, of course, 97 is what has been publicized. When you're looking at a high school pitcher who throws 109 pitches in a game, never loses velocity, and you've got pitches 106 through 108 at 96 miles per hour, and then you hit 97 at 109, which, of course, was a third strike for the win. Your stock is only going to rise. And, Coach Corum said he made himself a little money on that last pitch, and I absolutely believe that. But it's not just that last pitch. I mean, certainly Blake has had a significant body of work over the last 4 years and has done things the right way, played well, been dominant all year long. I was listening to a couple of guys talk about the various players in the draft and kind of what they were looking at. They spent a little bit of time talking about Blake, and one thing they said about him is when you go watch a high school pitcher, usually there's going to be 1 or 2 really bad outings. All right. And if you're a scout and you pack up and you travel a pretty good distance to see a high school pitcher play, you hope that when you get there, it's not one of those duds. Blake never had a dud. You look at him and his record throughout the season, consistently, game in and game out, every single start he was on. All right. He never had a bad outing. He dominated from game 1 all the way through the state championship game, and then he hit that 97 mile per hour 109th pitch. So where you go in the draft, there are a lot of factors there. Okay, so you're looking at, projecting around 60. ESPN has him a little farther down the board, but then you look at some others again, first round, late first round, early second round, all the way up to the end of the second round, beginning of the third round. It just depends. It depends on what teams need. It depends on what teams are able to trade for. It depends on who's calling the shots that night. But I will tell you this, when you look at the money allocated to each slot, the number 60 slot has $1.5 million allocated to it. So if you go around 60, you're looking at 1.5 million. If you go earlier than that, it's going to be more. And a first round pick is going to be in excess of $2 million. So that's not a bad haul for somebody who just graduated from high school a couple of weeks ago. So I don't know what's going to happen, but the draft begins on Saturday. And then, of course, it goes into Sunday. And we've seen everything from, a Saturday pick to possibly an early Sunday pick. Who knows? It just depends. The draft is sort of a living, breathing event that ebbs and flows depending upon the needs and the whims of those who are calling the shots. I did talk to someone who had a conversation with a Major League Baseball scout that had a pick around 40, 41, 42. And that scout said, look, if he's available, we're probably going to take him, but we don't know if he's going to be available. We don't expect him to be. So that's coming from a scout there with a team that has a pick in the low 40s. So who knows? But it's fun to watch. and it's fun to talk about and to try to figure out where he might go. But I can tell you this right now, the highest draft pick that we've had in Coffee County, Major League draft pick, is fourth round. Ricardo Ingram out of Georgia Tech went in the fourth round. Right. Interestingly enough, Greg Walker, who had as good a Major League career as anybody from Coffee County has ever had, went in the 20th round, I believe it was. So, going in the early rounds doesn't necessarily guarantee success. And I'll tell you what happened with Ricardo. He played 14 Major League Baseball games with the Twins and with the Tigers. Most of them, I believe, 12 with the Tigers, maybe 2 with the Twins. What got Ricardo was the MLB strike in 1994. His career was on the rise, and the strike cut that short. And when play resumed, he was never able to get back to the majors. But he went on and had a great coaching career in the minor leagues with the Twins. Now, you don't know if a strike is going to affect anything coming up, because there's going to be a strike next year. There's going to be a strike. If you're following Major League Baseball, if you're following what's happening with the collective bargaining agreement, what they're trying to do with the minor leagues and all that stuff. All right. And I'm on the side of the players with this. All right. The owners, what the owners are looking at doing right now, the proposals on the table are going to hurt the game. The game's already not as good as it was 20, 30 years ago. You can look at batting averages and see that. You can see how the game is managed and how the game is called. You had a pitcher for the Marlins throw 7 perfect innings a couple of days ago and got pulled. He's throwing a perfect game in the 7th inning, and they pulled him. They're looking at these advanced metrics and that kind of stuff. That's not good for the game. That's not good for the game. Nobody wants to see that. All right. But baseball's going in a bad direction, and if what the owners have proposed goes through, anything close to what they proposed goes through, it's going to be really, really bad for baseball. The product on the field is going to suffer tremendously from what it was even 10 years ago, but certainly going back 20, 30 years ago. But Blake Bryant, starting pitcher, Baseball America, one of the best high school pitchers in the country, named to his 4th All-America team with the draft coming up this weekend. It's going to be a lot of fun. So congratulations to Blake. Congratulations to CCA, Coach Corum, Blake's family, all the folks who have coached him in travel ball, all that stuff. Everyone shares in this success. I want to shift gears from here and talk a little bit about some politics that are a little farther away from Georgia. But what's happening up in Maine with the Democratic nominee for U.S. Senate, Graham Plattner, is a symptom of an illness that has absolutely crippled the Democratic Party and will continue to do so if they do not make some changes. There's a part of me that is enjoying this because you're watching the Democrats self-destruct in real time. But then there's another part of it that really troubles me because it shows, it demonstrates to what lengths we are willing to go to. And I say we collectively as a society in order to win, that we're throwing common sense, morality, integrity, all of that out the window just for the sake of winning an election. It's happening in Maine. It's going to happen elsewhere if people don't learn a lesson from what is happening up there. And as we have seen over the last few years, people do not learn their lesson. We'll talk about that when we come back. We'll be back in just a second. When someone is injured in an accident, they need 3 things: answers, a plan, and a legal team they can trust. That's what you get at the law office of Bruce Edwards in Douglas, along with a healthy dose of old school toughness and modern strategy to boot. We are here to help. Give us a call and let us work for you. Looking for design, printing, or shipping solutions? Stop by PostNet in Douglas or Waycross today. From business cards to signs and all small business and personal print projects in between, we've got your back with our full-service printing capabilities. We offer custom packing and shipping options through UPS, FedEx, and the U.S. Postal Service, so you can always choose what works best for you. Welcome back. Robert Preston Jr. here on Douglas Now Live this afternoon. So why are we in general, and then me specifically, here in Southeast Georgia interested in what is happening in the main U.S. Senate race, because it is political theater at its best and at its worst. If you have followed this, Graham Plattner is an untested candidate, a relative unknown, who won the Democratic nomination for U.S. Senate in the primary. He is set to face Republican incumbent Susan Collins, who has been in office since 1996. She has successfully deflected all challengers over that time period, last, 30 years or so. She has done that and seemed to be largely unbeatable. Then Plattner comes out of nowhere, a socialist, a progressive, one of these guys that sort of breathed new life, if you will, into the Democratic Party and gave them confidence going into November. Now, there were some problems. There were red flags that presented themselves almost immediately. And the voters of Maine, in particular, Democrats in general, overlooked all of these red flags, most notably that Mr. Plattner, who has a large number of tattoos, had a tattoo of a Nazi symbol on his chest. It was not a swastika. I hope I'm saying this right. A Totenkopf. I'm probably butchering that, but it's the Nazi skull that was used as a symbol of the SS. He had it tattooed on his chest. Said he got it in 2007 when he was in the military. Didn't know what it meant. That has since been determined to be quite false. He knew exactly what it was. Said he got it when he was drunk. Didn't know what it was. But that's not true. He only got it covered up when he got when the election began under duress. But once again, tried to feign ignorance of exactly what it was. That's the first thing. All right. And let me segue here for a second. All right. What you have with the Democratic Party now at the national level, the two most prominent figures are New York City Mayor Zoran Mamdani and Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders, both of whom are socialists. All right. That's who the spokespeople are. That's who the face of the Democratic Party is right now, or socialist. Socialism should terrify every single American. Nothing good is going to come from socialism. You can call it what you want to, democratic socialism. You can paint it up however you want to. You can dress it up, try to make it look good, try to make it look appealing. It doesn't work. It never has worked. It never will work. We are not evolving as a society. We are not evolving as a country, as a political system from capitalism, democracy, whatever you want to call it, that we're outgrowing that and moving into a phase of our country's development and our country's history where socialism is a viable option. It is not. It never has been, and it never will be. Now, you want to circle back to Plattner's candidacy. The Democratic Party has historically tried to paint itself as the party of the working class. And for the most part, it has been, except for the last few years. In 2024, what beat the Democrats was the working class. The working class finally looked up and said, you know what? The Democratic Party does not represent me. They are not looking out for my best interests. So they turned away from the Democratic Party. What's interesting about Plattner, who projected himself as a working class person, one of the people, not an elite, not a political elite, anything like that. In Maine, Plattner was very popular among the educated elite. And I'm using elite a little loosely here, but among college graduates, professionals, the white collar folks, he was very popular with them. He was not popular among the working class, the people who get out every day, who work for a living, who solve problems, who have to make payroll, who deal with real world problems, real world issues in real time saw right through Plattner. They saw what he was, that he was a liability, and they didn't vote for him. He was able to get the nomination without the working class vote. All right. And what you get when you deal with unvetted candidates, and I'm not necessarily talking about newcomers here, I'm talking about unvetted candidates, you open yourself up to a tremendous amount of liability. Now, I'll be the first person to say that I don't like it when the same group of old people run for office. I like to see younger people get involved. I like to see folks who may not be part of that elite win elections and have a voice in the government. But they've got to be the right candidates, and you have to vet those candidates, and you have to make sure that nothing is going to come up. So after you had the tattoo scandal with Plattner, he told everybody, look, we can get by this. There's nothing else coming up. Okay, well, there was. Last couple of days, a couple of women have come forward and said that Plattner sexually assaulted them. Now, that has, of course, made the headlines and has Plattner's candidacy in question. Now, he has not been charged of a crime yet. He does not have to step down. All right. And I've been doing a little bit of research this afternoon, and a lot of people are saying he shouldn't step down unless he gets charged with a crime. And you may be saying, well, if you're a liability, why? Well, here's the reason why. One of the things that you hear, all right, and you may have said this before, but one of the things that you hear is that the Republicans are trying to destroy democracy. President Trump is trying to destroy our country and destroy our system of government. All right. Now, you know that I am not one for hyperbole, all right? And I'm certainly no Donald Trump apologist, but Donald Trump is not trying to destroy our country. Neither are Republicans, all right? But think about this for a minute. How do you destroy how would you do that? How would you destroy the United States? One of the first things you would do is you would take away the voice of the people. Democrats have taken away the voice of the people of this country 2 times. Well, they've done it 1 time. They're on the verge of doing it a 2nd time. And of course, the 2nd time would be here with Plattner. But the first time they did it, was in the presidential election, right? Now, you could successfully argue, very successfully, very easily argue that Joe Biden should have never been on the ballot in the first place. Unless you're dealing with extreme circumstances, the sitting president who has a 2nd term available is going to be the party's nominee. All right. And that's the way it should be. But when we were dealing with President Biden, there were very much, extreme circumstances. His cognitive abilities were compromised. All right. You can argue however you want to. They were. And everybody knew it. He should have never been put out there as a candidate. The people who are close to him, his family, his advisors, they have a vested interest in protecting him, in protecting his legacy, and keeping him from being held up to ridicule. They did not do that. They did not do that at all. They allowed him to be put forth out there as a candidate. And then when it became obvious that there were problems, what happened? They convinced him to step down. Now, here's the thing. Democrats voted for Biden. He was who they wanted. They did not want anyone else. He was their selection. What the Democrats did was, in turn, removed him and put Kamala Harris in place, who nobody wanted. She's not electable. She's not going to be electable in 28 if she's going to be the nominee. All right. She's not a likable person. She doesn't connect with people. All right. Those far left like her, but you're not going to win an election, a general election, from the far left or from the far right. You're not going to do it. She was not electable at all. But in the general election, Democrats were forced to vote for someone they did not want. They showed that in the primary. All right. if the next few days play out the way people think they are, Democrats in Maine are going to do the same thing. Plattner has about a week to drop out of the race. I think he's got to be out by the 13th. If he is out by the 13th, then the Democratic Party in Maine can choose someone to replace him on the ballot. If that's what happens, then Democratic voters in Maine will be forced to vote for someone in November they did not want. All right? They didn't want. That's taking away the voice of the people. What are your choices in those situations? Well, you leave the individual on the ballot. That's what people wanted. Let them vote. That's what they chose. It may not be a good choice, but that's what the voters wanted. So let them decide when it gets to November. Now, if Plattner were to be charged with a crime, that would be something else. But ultimately, the overall solution here is that you pick better candidates as a party, all right? And as voters, you vet your candidates, you learn about your candidates, and when you see red flags, you stay away from them. This is one of the things that irritates me about the Democratic Party. All right, the Democratic Party now is a party that believes that the means justifies the end. Plattner had so many red flags, so many red flags. Why would any voter? Let me back up. What's one of the things that the Democrats did in 24 with Trump? How many times did they do this? It didn't resonate well with voters, but they did it. Called Trump a Nazi, compared Trump to Hitler. All right. They did that. They did that a bunch of times. Again, it did not resonate well. All right. But now you have Democrats in Maine embracing a candidate with a Nazi symbol tattooed on your chest. There's no explanation that would make me believe that was accidental. All right, just thought it looked cool. Thought it looked cool. No. You knew exactly what you're doing because those are your political beliefs. And the voters of Maine are willing to bring that into the United States, into the federal government, into the U.S. Senate. That's what they're willing to do. All right. The means justifies the end. We want to win. Now, most pundits believe that the path to victory for the Senate, for the Democrats reclaiming the Senate, would go through Maine. That looks very shaky right now. Very, very shaky. The voters of Maine are going to have a difficult decision to make. If Plattner's not charged with a crime and he doesn't drop out, then you're looking at someone who is an accused someone who is accused of sexual assault, who also has, at least at one point in his life, had Nazi sympathies. That's your, you've got to vote for somebody like that. Or if he's forced out of the race, then you're going to have to vote for somebody you didn't want in the first place. That is what is a threat to democracy, taking away the voice of the people. The Democrats have done it once, and they're on the verge of doing it a second time in Maine. Socialism has no room in the American political system. If you vote for a socialist, I don't have words strong enough to describe what a bad decision that is. The people of New York City are going to see that. All right. They're going to see that before it's all said and done. New York is not going to be the city that it once was under Mamdani's leadership. It's just not. All right. It's not. It's already showing cracks in the foundation, and they're only going to get worse. Now, kind of been hard on Maine here a little bit, but you have other states that also have unvetted candidates, namely Michigan and Texas. What kind of problems are they going to see? What's going to come up over the course of the next few months? November seems like it's a long way away, but it's not. It's not at all. But choosing newcomers, unvetted candidates is extremely risky. All right. And the folks in Maine are seeing that, and they're seeing that in stark detail. But again, you don't take away the voice of the people. And Republicans are not perfect. Now, I'm not going to say that they are, and I'm not going to say that they haven't made mistakes and they haven't put up bad candidates and they haven't done bad things. But I will tell you one thing they have not done. Republicans have not taken away the voice of the voter. All right. Even in the election controversies of 2020, the voice of the people won out. All right. Democrats have taken away the voice of the people one time and might do it again. And I think you're going to see that. I think you're going to see that happen in the next couple of days. Plattner will ultimately be out of the election, and then the Democrats are going to choose someone to run against Senator Collins, and it's someone that the voters of Maine did not choose. That is not a good thing. And this sort of comes back to another one of the issues that I have with the Democratic Party, and that is there's no line Democrats aren't willing to cross. There's no line. There are no absolutes. If something weird goes on, Democrats seldom say no. And Plattner's an example of that. You got a guy with Nazi sympathies. Nobody said no. You know what? That's too much baggage. That's too dangerous. Socialism. We don't want that. We're not going in that direction. What do the Democrats do? They just move the line a little bit farther. They just move the line a little bit farther. And I will say this, that there are lines that Republicans won't cross, although you've kind of seen the line move a little bit with the Republicans, but it hasn't moved as far as it does with the Democrats. There are no absolutes in the Democratic Party. Democrats, I say Democrats, I really mean liberals here, will justify anything once again if it accomplishes the purposes and the goals that they're seeking, without regard for the results, the negative results, the baggage, the whatever that might come afterwards. Right? Once again, you're going to see that in New York. You already see it in cities that have been run by liberals for a long time. They're a mess. They're a mess. All right. And you would think that voters would learn that. We're going to keep that out of our government. But in certain areas of our country, they have not. So what is happening in Maine, it's kind of easy to laugh at and make fun of, but it's also quite serious. And it's going to have some serious ramifications in November. It's going to have serious ramifications throughout Capitol Hill. It's going to have serious ramifications for us. But at some point, and I don't know how bad it's going to have to get, I don't know how many mistakes we're going to have to make before people realize, do not vote for a socialist. Liberal, that's one thing. Socialist, that's something else entirely. All right? And watch what happens in New York. The only people who benefit from socialism are people who don't want to work. People who don't want to work, or people who want to remain in power, because socialism does create a deeply entrenched class of leaders who do not give up power at all. All right? It doesn't happen. So those who benefit from socialism are the very pointy end of the elite class, and then the very bottom of society. Those in the middle, which is where most of us are, do not benefit from socialism, and that's why I believe that Plattner was not popular among the working class in Maine. They saw right through him. I don't know how many working class people are in New York City, but not enough to see through or not enough to make a difference in that election. All right. We also have to realize at some point that a lot of the issues that socialists run on, affordability being one of them, a lot of these are self-inflicted problems. All right. They really are. People live above their means. Yeah, affordability is an issue, but as a whole, as a society, we have not done a good job of taking care of our financial health. And that means, and the economy ebbs and flows. It's up and down. And fewer people are able to weather the downturns because we have overextended ourselves. All right. There's an electronic friend of mine. I've never met this person in face to face, but someone I started following a few years ago. I say a few years ago, 20 or so years ago. And I remember one thing he posted. It was the anniversary of the first Model T that rolled off the assembly line. And he made the comment that when Henry Ford made the Model T, he also instituted financing in the installment plan. Now, I know the installment plan was a thing before the Model T. All right, people were buying on credit and making payments and doing things like that. But it became more widespread and became more acceptable once automobiles started rolling off the assembly line. And this guy made the comment. He said, and this is not verbatim, but words to this effect, that ever since the first Model T rolled off the assembly line, people have been broke ever since. And to some degree, that's true. Now, where am I going with that? I don't want the government solving my financial issues. All right. And I've made some financial mistakes. All of us have. But I don't want the government trying to swoop in and give me something to make up for what I should be doing on my own. I should be working. I should be paying my bills. I should be taking care of my family. I don't need, nor do I want the government to come in and do that. You're not going to dangle a carrot in front of me, free health care, free housing, free transportation. I don't want that. I don't want that for a variety of reasons. All right. That's what socialists peddle. And you might to some degree get it, but it's going to come with a tremendous cost. It's going to come at the cost of your freedom. It's going to come at the cost of your creativity, of your individuality, because one of the things that socialists crack down on is the artistic class. All right. The thinkers, the writers, the painters, the musicians, those who, filmmakers, producers, screenwriters, those who have a platform to question the government, to influence the thought of the people. All right. Socialist countries do not protect the artistic class at all. So it's one of the things that they do. They try to silence those who can sway public opinion. All right. I don't want the government going in that direction, and you shouldn't either. All right. All the free stuff, all those carrots they dangle in front of you come with a price, a tremendous price. It's never worked anywhere, and it's not going to work here in the United States. But right now, ultimately, a lot of the problems the Democratic Party has is because the socialist wing is the wing that has a hold of that party. All right. Bernie Sanders, Mamdani, Mayor Mamdani, they are the faces of the Democratic Party. It's dangerous. It's scary. There are a lot of problems that come with it. And if anything good comes out of what happens in Maine, you may not like Senator Collins. You may not like her at all. But I guarantee you she's a better choice than Graham Plattner. She's a better choice than anyone with the name socialist attached to them. Democratic, socialist, or whatever. It's a bad deal. So anyway, we'll see what happens over the next couple of months, see what happens in Maine. A lot of people, me included, really thought that Republicans were going to take a beating in the midterm elections, but what's happening in Maine could change that. Certainly, at least from a Senate standpoint, Democrats may get the House back, but they're probably not going to get the Senate after these latest developments. And the Democrats have nobody to blame but themselves. All right, those who have control of the Democratic Party get control of the Democratic Party. Get these bad influences. Get the socialists out. Get the socialists out. You got to. You're not going to be successful if you don't. Let's take a break. We come back. We will talk a little bit about the weather and take a look at our tower cam. We're on during the day. We can see more than our 4 lights that we usually show at night. We'll be back in just a second. A car accident can have serious consequences far beyond the initial crash. Your life and the lives of your loved ones can be turned upside down. Missed work, lost wages, totaled vehicles, and insurance companies that don't want to help. You need a law firm that will fight for you. You've come to the right place. Looking for design, printing, or shipping solutions? Stop by PostNet in Douglas or Waycross today. From business cards to signs and all small business and personal print projects in between, we've got your back with our full-service printing capabilities. We offer custom packing and shipping options through UPS, FedEx, and the U.S. Postal Service, so you can always choose what works best for you. Welcome back. Let's take a look at our tower cam. I don't know that you can tell from the tower camera, but you can certainly tell if you've been outside. It is hot, miserably hot, insanely hot, dangerously hot. And somebody's probably going to say, it's not the heat, it's the humidity. I don't care what it is. It's hot. And I enjoy warm weather. I'm not a wintertime person at all. This is tough. All right. This is really tough. But there is relief coming. Temperatures will drop a little bit next week. They will be out of the 90s and into the high 80s for whatever that's worth. But we're also going to get some rain through the first part of the week next week. But maybe this heat dome will move off and we'll get some relief. But yeah, I mean, it's dangerously hot. Now, part of it might be that I'm an old man now. I feel like I'm in pretty good shape and feel like I can withstand the heat a little bit. But I'm struggling mightily in this weather, and I'm glad that I'm not outside laboring. My heart goes out to all those who are, for those who do any kind of work outside, contractors, landscapers, folks working on the road projects that we've got. If you're working outside in any shape, form, or fashion, paving, I mean, my Lord, if you're out there working around that hot asphalt, when it's already 103, 104 degrees, it's miserable. It really is. Folks who are on roofs. Roofing has always been a job that's mortified me for a variety of reasons. It is an incredibly important job. We got to have it, and I tip my hat to those who are out there on top of roofs messing with shingles each and every day. It's dangerous. It's hot. It's scary. Again, it's vital. We got to have it. And I'm not saying I wouldn't do it. If I had to feed my family, I'd do whatever I needed to do in order to make that happen. But I hope it never comes down to me having to get up there. But again, I think about that every day. Please, if you're outside, take precautions. Drink a lot of water. Drink some electrolyte drinks. You need to replace more than just water. You need to replace your sodium and what have you. Pay attention to the signs of heat stroke. If you feel them, get in the shade, get in the air conditioning. If they progress, then seek medical help immediately. You can end up in a life-threatening situation through the heat that we're having now. So everybody, please, please, please be careful out there. But we do have relief on the way. It's already Wednesday. Get through the weekend, first part of the week. We're going to have lows in the low 70s and then highs 87, 88 degrees through most of next week. So going to get a little bit of relief. Not much, but a little bit more rain in the forecast as well. I want to thank everybody for streaming with us today. We appreciate it. Thank you for tuning in and paying attention to what we do. It's a lot of fun bringing these live streams to you, and we thank you for your comments, your feedback, and your attention. Hope everybody has a wonderful, wonderful Wednesday. Stay safe out there. We'll see you next time.